So we're starting off here with story problem review. It says a building is 243 feet tall and casts a shadow of 87 feet. What is the angle of elevation from the end of the shadow to the top of the building? Here's my building, there's my shadow. If we're talking about how tall something is, what do I know about this thing? Yes, it's 243 feet tall. But if we're talking about height, I got a right angle there. I'm going to redraw that shadow because it looks a little bit weird. But there's my shadow. And then I'm talking from there to the top of the building. Okay? The shadow is 87 feet long. So that's 243. That's 87. If I am looking for the angle of elevation, which angle am I looking for? The one on top or the one on the ground? Angle of elevation is from the ground up. That is my theta. It is a right triangle. So if it's a right triangle, I'm using SohCahToa. From this angle, the angle I'm looking for, how is 243 related to theta? Opposite. 87 is the adjacent. So if I'm doing opposite and adjacent, it's a tangent problem. Tangent of theta equals the opposite over the adjacent. To get rid of tangent, I'm doing inverse tangent on both sides. So in my calculator, I'm going second tangent of 243 over 87. Type it in, hit enter. 70.3 is my missing angle. Questions on the first one? Second one says a blimp is floating but is tied to a stake on the ground. The wind is blowing, so the blimp is not right above the angle, or right above the stake. If the string connecting the blimp to the ground is 120 feet long and the angle of elevation, so this is the angle of elevation, is 72 degrees, how high is the blimp? This is what I'm looking for. Again, it's a right triangle, so we're doing right triangle stuff. How is x related? This is the angle I know. How is x related to that 72? Opposite. And the string is going to be the hypotenuse because it's across from the right angle. So again, we're doing SohCahToa. I know opposite and hypotenuse. That's sine. Sine of 72 equals the opposite over the hypotenuse. To solve for x, I'm multiplying both sides by 120 to get rid of that 120 on bottom. So in my calculator, I'm taking 120 times sine of 72. X is equal to 114.13 feet. That's how tall the blimp is. I know it wasn't going to be bigger than 120 because 120 was the hypotenuse, and that's the biggest line. That's always going to be the biggest side. Questions on 2. Number 3 says there's a hot air balloon, and it's floating between 2 people on the ground. So there's my hot air balloon. Here's person 1. Here's person 2. I'm going to make a triangle. Person A takes an angle of 35 degrees. Person B takes an angle of elevation to be 50 degrees. The 2 people are 4 miles apart. I want to know how high is the balloon. So my job is to find this thing. I want to know x. In order to solve for x, the first thing I got to do is solve for that opposite side, y. So the first thing I'm doing is looking at this triangle. This angle is 35. This angle is 50. This side is 4. Is it a right triangle? Not a right triangle, so I'm not doing SohCahToa. Do I have a power couple? No, but I can find one because I've got 50 and 35, so that makes this top angle 95, correct? That's 95. Now that I've done that, I have a power couple, so I can do law of sines. So I'm going to do a law of sines problem. Sine of 95 over 4 equals sine of 35 over y. When I'm doing this in my calculator, I'm doing cross multiplying, so I'm multiplying the 2 that I know 4 times sine of 35. And I'm going to divide that thing by the one that matches with y, so it's divide that by sine of 95. Type it in, hit enter. there is y. Y is 2.30 or just 2.3. Once I find that, now I'm looking at the smaller triangle. So I'm looking at this thing. This is a right angle. This is 50 degrees. This is 2.3. It's a right triangle, so I'm using SohCahToa. I ultimately want to find x. Here's my angle, 50 and x. X is the opposite side. 2.3 is the hypotenuse. Sorry. Hypotenuse. Which trig function goes opposite in hypotenuse? Sine of 50 equals opposite over hypotenuse. In my calculator, I would multiply by 2.3. Hit enter. 1.76 is my height. Questions on those?